Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Swa. This is the Art of Building. We're going to keep covering some basic tools. I'm going to do the speed square and the chalk line. We'll kind of go through the features of the speed square and some things you can use it for, a couple of techniques with the chalk line. They're not real complicated. And then we'll move along to next video will probably be hammer and chisel. And then hopefully we'll get into some projects. I've got a lot of things to tackle around my house, so I might film some of that, and maybe some of those things you guys will find useful around your homes. So let's get to it. Okay. This is our friendly neighborhood speed square. A couple features of the speed square. This lip along the side allows you to hook it onto a board, keep it lined up. Also works with your pivot point. It's got a scale along this edge, broken down into inches and eighths. It's got a scale along this edge that's broken into degrees, each 1 degree from 0 to 90. It's got a scale here that is for rafter cuts. It's based off of roof pitches. This scale is also built off of roof pitches. And it's got a 1/4 inch scale along here that goes from 1 to 3 inches. So first thing we'll look at is you can hook this on here, let you mark a square line. So this is 90. That's 90 degrees from there to there. But when you're using this square, this counts as your 0 point. So if I want to use my degree scale to find an angle, I can put this on here, try to get this so you can see it, line it up with this point, and if I want to mark a line that is 27 degrees from that, I keep my pivot point there, I swing this until I get 25, 26, 27, line that up, now I've marked 27 degrees from this 90 degree line, which is our 0 point with this edge. If I want to mark a roof pitch, these roof pitch numbers are based on a ratio of a certain number of inches of rise, which are these, over 12 inches or 1 foot of run. So if my roof is at an angle where I go over 12 inches and up 4 inches, that's a 4/12 pitch. If I go over 12 inches and up 12 inches, that's a 12/12 pitch, that's a 45 degree angle. So these all refer to that ratio for a common rafter. So if I want to mark let's call it an 8/12 pitch, I would put this on here. I pivot this until I measure to the 8, and that's on the common top cut scale. That's this lower scale. Mark that. That would be my plumb cut at the top of my rafter. So that would be a ridge cut. The 90 degrees to that, if I measured 90 degrees off of that at the other end of the rafter, would be my seat cut or my level cut. The reason there's a secondary scale up here is because what I just showed you was for common rafters. A hip rafter or a valley sits at a 45 degree angle to the roof, so all of the angles change. So this is a different scale. That's a more complicated process we can talk about later. But that gives you a brief breakdown of the degrees and the inches and this 1/4 inch scale along here. So if I were marking say I want to mark the edge of a stud, and that's this line, and then that stud's going to be 1.5 inches thick, because that's a common thickness for studs, at least in the US it is. That would be how big my stud would be. So I can use those scales in both directions. Now, I can also use this scale to draw a line. If I wanted to draw a line that was 2 inches over, say, I could hold my pencil on here and scribe that, but it's tough to keep it straight. Some of these squares will have little notches for that. This one doesn't, and that's not super accurate. And if you were going to go over a long distance, like 16 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet, you don't want to use this, and you may not be able to, so you might want to use a chalk line. Holds chalk inside. This feeds out. Winds back up again. This one has a gear ratio, so when you crank it, it winds up very quickly. This one's a little bit stiff. They have different ones. I would recommend one that's a fast rewind, because otherwise it takes forever to wind your line back up. It's got a hook on the end here. This hook could go over the head of a screw. A lot of times you're just going to hook it on the end of the board. The only problem with this is you won't get any chalk. You won't get a line right here. So a lot of times, if I have this 2-inch line, and I mark that out, and I have a 2-inch line here, and I make a crow's foot, because I'm just going to that point. Now I can hook my line, and I can tell if my string is over my pencil line there to make it a little more accurate. You don't want to touch the line to the wood before you're ready to snap it, or it leaves, you'll get 2 lines, and then you don't know which one is which. So I want to be very careful about pulling it tight, gradually setting it down there, and it doesn't take much to snap a line and leave a pretty good mark on there. If you don't do it too much, you'll be able to take the line and snap it, 2 or 3 times, and you won't have to reel it up in between each time. That can save you some trips back and forth across the floor or the roof if you're snapping out layout, say for shingles. So one other tip is you could always hook this hook on the back side of the board, and then when you pull your string around, the string is starting to snap right at the corner, and that can help as well. You can't always do that, but sometimes that's another trick that will help. If you have to go a really long way, sometimes I'll take my knife and cut a little tiny slot right there, and then pull my chalk line through it so it can't move around side to side. And then when I walk away, if I can't see if it's still in the same spot, at least that little notch will hold it there. So there you go. There are a couple of tips for how to use your speed square, chalk box, and we'll get into some other videos and help break down some tools and then get into some projects. Thanks for watching. Hope you can join us again.